Welcome to this recording of a short interview with Line Kvartborg Vestergaard from Copenhagen. Together with Benedikt Schmid, Line published a paper very recently titled Institutional Activism Within the Local State, Exploring Ambitions for Deep Transformation in Amsterdam. It was published in December 2025 in Environmental Innovation and Societal Transitions. My name is Christian Lamker, Assistant Professor at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands. In the course Planning Dynamics, Specialisms and Roles in Action, taught by Ferry from Kann and myself, we have read this paper in March 2026 with our 200 students, and Line was so kind to share a few more personal answers and experiences with us. For now, let's listen to it.
I'm happy to be here with you, Line Kvartborg Vestergaard. You did some research in Amsterdam around donut economics as a starting point, but which transformative ambitions did you recognize in Amsterdam?
Yeah, I went to Amsterdam and lived there for 9 months as a part of my PhD research. I went there to study how both civil society actors and municipal actors enacted the alternative economic vision of donut economics. But then, as is the case with most fieldwork, I guess, there's always serendipity and things you don't expect to experience. And this Brandbrief, this institutional activism attempt emerged during my fieldwork, where city officials, they initiated and mobilized around a letter to get more climate action. I started to also investigate what that was all about and how you as a civil servant can tinker with the system and change it from within, which is not that studied both in the literature, and also I don't see much public debate yet about how you can actually, as a civil servant, do actions against status quo and engage in acts of activism. You don't have to be on the street.
Civil servants writing an open public letter, indeed quite unusual. I haven't heard too many examples of that, like the Amsterdam Brandbrief. In your research, did you recognize specific conditions that enabled this to happen in Amsterdam?
I'm from Denmark, and I think compared to Denmark and the Netherlands, I think people in the Netherlands have a more outspoken culture and also have had more, intense public debates, for instance, about land use, land reforms, which we're just getting started in Denmark. So I think the discussions on societal change are more mature in the Netherlands than Denmark. I think that it was actually only a few people who initiated this letter, where they drafted a letter and circulated it among their peers, their colleagues. But it also testifies to this frustration that I think we see at the moment in public institutions. There's so much frustrations where civil servants want to act on scientific knowledge and on the big problems we face now and in the future. But they can't in the institutional and political landscape. I think it was only 7 people who wrote this letter, but I think they hit a nerve because so many others of their colleagues were feeling the same, but it required that they wrote this letter, but also that it got leaked to the press and created a wider societal debate about the role of civil servants in a climate collapse, where I think the role of researchers cannot be underestimated, that there was actually researchers going out and defending these civil servants, saying that it wasn't, anti-democratic and eroding for democracy. What they did actually was responsible and morally right. So that's some of the factors that there's a strong, debate culture and strong knowledge institutions and frustrations and worries. I think a lot of people are worried, and these civil servants chose to act on it.
Yeah, I learned before that your research started in a larger project around donut economics and the application in Amsterdam, and then suddenly the Brandbrief happened, which gave you even more opportunities to deal with the questions you address in the paper. How far did the donut economics and the work around that then gave some kind of sense of agency and maybe of urgency as well, to then speak out and even take initiatives to go public with a letter?
I think the donut and this Brandbrief, this urgent fire letter, were two very different trajectories, where I think donut economics built up a wider awareness about holistic ways of engaging with sustainability and system change. But it didn't create the same activity and vocality within the municipality as the Brandbrief. Of course, donut economics became widely known in Europe and elsewhere that Amsterdam was initiating this work with donut economics. But I think the Brandbrief had a more like local, both organizational local, but also Dutch local scale, where it really initiated the debate about what is like professional conduct and public administration when you work with sustainability in a world like going towards a 3 degrees Celsius increase.
To speculate a bit beyond Amsterdam, do you have a guess, or does your research help us to understand how to recognize also similar hidden ambitions within a local government, a local state elsewhere in Copenhagen, where you are right now, or in other cities?
Yeah, I think it's challenging because, as you said, I don't think that there are many of these attempts. I haven't at least seen, and it starts to change in Copenhagen now. One thing is to look beyond what policy says. We can find many journal articles that, compare how Groningen and Utrecht and Stockholm and Glasgow is doing on certain parameters. And that can get us a certain place, knowing, what directions is policy taking in these places. That's just the surface. That's just the top of the iceberg. And we need to go beneath that. And I think students and researchers and journalists need to also, engage with the people in municipalities and hear what their ambitions are and how they, within the limits of their work, try to, install Trojan horses within certain policies and make them more radical, make them different. We need to have closer collaborations with civil servants, and that also counts for grassroots movements. That we need to be closer to each other and build broad coalitions. And when we are there, we can have really trustful relations where we can, talk with civil servants about all the things they try to do within the lines of the organization, which is often not visible to the general public. And also because we have civil servants who are not used to speaking up. When a municipality gets a request to talk about visions and, strategies for the city, these requests often end up with mayors. So civil servants can be reluctant to speak on the behalf of the city, even though, at least in Denmark, it says in the code of conduct to be a civil servant that you're allowed to speak up. But even though it says that, it's in practice, it's a different thing. And I think we start to see that change. Recently, there was a feature in Denmark where 38 civil servants from across municipalities and regions were saying that we need a different debate based on science on what future and what society we should strive towards.
Yeah, or maybe also just to realize that civil servants, public administrators is also not a unified block of ideas, but there are similar struggles within the administration than are outside in society at large.
Yeah. I completely agree. I think a municipality is just as diverse as if you go down on a street. It's not a state is not a monolith. It's comprised of many people with many practices and aspirations and also goals. And that's also what makes it extremely hard to change municipal organizations, because people operate after different goals. Some are there to attract multinational businesses. Some are there to make sure traffic goes smoothly. Others to improve healthcare for elder people. It's difficult sometimes to collaborate when you have different goals, right?
If we look towards the future and for a future spatial planner or other administrator in a public administration, maybe someone who's soon graduating from a bachelor's program, how would you then characterize the scope of action, of maybe even of institutional activism for such a typical employee?
Yeah, I think first of all, they cannot call it activism because that can make things hard. I think they need to be very, mindful and strategic of what words we deploy. As a civil servant, you can't do everything, but everybody can do something. And I think that also counts for people about to enter municipal and regional institutions, state institutions. You can provide knowledge into projects, define what problems are we trying to solve? What are solutions? What are the dilemmas and risks of that? What do we measure? Also, again, knowledge. What do you bring in? Climate knowledge, knowledge and perspectives from people who aren't usually there, present in the room in public administration. I think we can also, support. When your students come out in organizations, they would meet colleagues who are super ambitious, and I think there's also a big. There's a lot to say about we need to support each other more. It's vulnerable to be a killjoy in a municipal organization and insist that climate science is not a political, topic we can debate. It's there are finite resources on a finite planet, and we need to support one another. Coalition building is really important. It comes as a surprise for many that it's still so difficult for people in public administration to collaborate with civil society actors, because we are different. We speak different languages. Sometimes civil society actors are angry with good reasons. That's also something students who are about to enter these administrations can be good at, reaching out and getting perspectives from different organizations and networks. And we need to be really patient sometimes. We need to be bold, we need to be ambitious, but we also need to be patient and meet fellow colleagues with empathy, because it is big changes that needs to happen. And that can be difficult if you've been working in a municipality for plus 20 years and always been handling tasks in a particular way. But we also need to be bold and speak up. And by speaking up, engaging in these language acts, we also create space for others that maybe also sit with the same worry, the same frustration, the same ambitions. We also provide space for them to act on their ambitions for the municipality and the city they inhabit.
Yeah, Line. So quite a complex situation, but there is also a sense of hope, potential, and there is a variety of directions that are happening already within public administrations, and even more possibilities for future actions and future roles in administration.
Definitely.
Thanks a lot for joining me today and sharing some of your thoughts on your recent paper.
A pleasure.